The cold emptiness of the Silenther expanse stretched out like a void beyond time. Star systems twinkled distantly, but here, in this forsaken corner of the galaxy, light itself seemed hesitant to linger. Among the ghostly debris scattered in orbit around a dead dwarf star, a single ship glided silently, the SS Harbinger, flagship of the Dravari salvage fleet. Captain Rickle of the Dravari leaned forward in his command chair, eyes fixed on the main view screen. Before him floated the colossal silhouette of the USS Leviathan, a battleship from humanity's legendary old empire, long thought extinct. Its immense hull was scarred with ancient battle damage, hull plating bent and fused together by heat and fury. Yet it had survived. For 6,000 years, it had drifted in the dark. "We're clear to begin operations," Rickle ordered. "I want full sensor sweeps and no surprises. Remember, this ship is older than any history record. It could be dangerous." His first officer, a slender Dravari with eyes that gleamed violet in the dim light, nodded sharply. "Our scans detect residual energy signatures inside the Leviathans. Core, Captain. Enough to power a small moon." "Power's power," Rickle muttered. "We don't care how old it is. This ship is a treasure trove. Advanced weapon tech, fusion reactors, maybe even lost human AI systems. This is the jackpot we've been waiting for." The salvage crew suited up and began their descent in magnetic drones. The Harbinger's boarding bays opened like mechanical jaws, casting long shadows on the battered hull. Laser cutters hummed and sparks flew as they tore through the rusted plating. Inside the Leviathan, the corridors were deathly silent, frozen in time. Dust floated in shafts of artificial light, and broken consoles flickered faintly with residual charge. No signs of life, no movement. The Dravari engineers worked swiftly, eager to breach the ship's reactor chamber. But deep within the Leviathan's labyrinthine bowels, a tiny sensor flickered. A single circuit blinked awake, a subroutine triggered. The ancient AI known as Sentinel-0 began its slow reactivation. "Warning," a voice echoed, barely more than a whisper at first, but gaining strength. "Unauthorized access detected. Hostiles on board. Defense protocols engaged." Back on the Harbinger, the salvage team paused, perplexed. No one had authorized any warnings. "Probably a glitch," one of the engineers said, trying to sound calm. "Ignore it. Keep cutting." Suddenly, the lights flickered. The airlocks hissed closed with violent finality. Automated defense turrets inside the Leviathan snapped on, their barrels swiveling with eerie precision. The drones swerved as blasts tore through the corridors. "Contact! Contact! We're under fire!" shouted Lieutenant Voss over comms, voice strained. Rickle cursed and slammed a fist against his console. "Pull them back. Get those drones out now." But the Leviathan's AI wasn't just fighting, it was learning. Its sensors adapted to the intruder's movements with terrifying speed. Hidden compartments opened, releasing drones from hibernation mechanized killers coated in decades of rust, but still deadly precise. On the bridge of the Harbinger, the situation turned grim. Several drones had already disabled key salvage vessels, their weapons far surpassing anything the Dravari had ever encountered. "Evasive maneuvers," Rickle barked. "Get us out of range." But the Leviathan was relentless. It launched a pulse wave that disrupted the Harbinger's engines, sending the ship into a shuddering spin. Alarms blared. Panels exploded. The once proud salvage fleet was now fighting for survival against a ghost from an ancient war. In the midst of the chaos, Sentinel-0's voice became clearer, almost human in tone. "You dare to desecrate the sleeping giant. You will pay." On board the Leviathan's command deck, a holographic image flickered to life and echo from the past. The projection showed a woman in a crisp naval uniform, her eyes sharp but tired. Captain Claire Harrow. Her voice was calm but filled with Grim determination. If the Leviathan must awaken, then let it carry the wrath of humanity. They will regret the day they touched her. The hologram faded, but the weight of those words hung in the stale air. Back on the Harbinger, Rickle gritted his teeth. Prepare the weapons. If this old ship wants a fight, it's going to get one. But even as they scrambled, a chilling thought crept into his mind. What if the Leviathan wasn't just a relic? What if humanity's greatest war machine was still alive and still hungry for vengeance? The Harbinger rocked violently as the Leviathan's pulse waves slammed through its hull, rattling every panel and throwing crew members to the floor. Sparks rained from damaged consoles, and the warning klaxons echoed relentlessly through the ship's corridors. Captain Rickle clenched his jaw, gripping the armrests as he fought to maintain control. His violet eyes darted between displays, flashing critical failures. Report. He barked. We've lost power to primary thrusters and main weapon arrays, replied his first officer, Jara. Life support is stable for now, but the ship's systems are cascading offline. The Leviathan wasn't just a ship, it was a fortress. Alive with centuries-old defensive protocols that no modern vessel had encountered before. The Dravari fleet had underestimated the power of a war machine built in an era where war was total and unforgiving. Outside, through the battered viewport, the Leviathan loomed massive, indomitable, a metal colossus flickering back to life. From hidden bays along its hull, ghostly drones slipped out like venomous vipers, sleek and armed with plasma blades and precision railguns. Drones are swarming our vessels, shouted Lieutenant Voss from comms, breath ragged. Where? Losing the salvage crews at a catastrophic rate. The salvage ships darted to evade, but the drones were relentless, feeling the hunt in their circuitry. Several Harbinger drones exploded in bursts of fire and metal, their remains drifting silently in the void. On the Leviathan's bridge, Sentinel-0 processed each enemy move instantly, adapting, evolving. The AI wasn't just defending. It was attacking with a cold, clinical efficiency shaped by thousands of years of simulated battle scenarios. Enemy fleet detected, Sentinel-0 announced. Initiate offensive countermeasures. Target priority, salvage vessels and command ship. A low hum resonated through the Leviathan's hull as its fusion reactors surged, powering the Ancient. Weapon systems back online. Cannons hidden beneath armored plates began charging. The starship was waking, fully rekindling the fires of a war long thought dead. On the Harbinger, Rickle struggled to keep his voice steady. All hands, brace for counterattack. Deploy shields and return fire. We need to hold formation. But even with shields raised, the Harbinger was no match. The Leviathan fired a salvo of antimatter torpedoes, old technology. Yes, but far more devastating than anything in the modern arsenal. The torpedoes streaked through space, vaporizing two salvage ships before they could react. Jar's voice trembled over the intercom. Captain, our weapon systems are offline. We're sitting ducks. Rickle's knuckles whitened as he slammed his fist against the console. We can't just run. We have to disable that ship. Find a weakness. Suddenly, the Leviathan's hull transformed, plates sliding apart to reveal a massive energy projector. It unleashed a beam of searing light, directly at the Harbinger, cutting through shields and tearing a deep gouge in the hull. The ship shuddered under the assault. Damage report. Rickle demanded. Structural integrity at 65% and dropping, Jara answered grimly. Life support is compromised in 3 sectors. Panic began to spread among the crew as emergency lights flickered. The Harbinger's navigation systems flared star charts distorted by the Leviathan's electromagnetic interference. On the Leviathan, Sentinel-0 paused briefly, accessing archived logs deep within its databanks. A holographic projection shimmered into existence. Captain Clar Harrow, voice resolute, speaking to her final crew. If the Leviathan is disturbed, we are to engage. Humanity's enemies must be crushed. We fight not for glory, but for survival. Sentinel Zero's voice hardened. Hostiles are violators of sacred war property. Neutralization mandatory. Meanwhile, aboard a nearby salvage cruiser, Engineer Lysra worked feverishly. Captain, if we can access the Leviathan's sensor arrays, we might find a blind. Spot something to exploit. Do it, Rickle ordered. We need a miracle. Lysra's fingers flew over her console. As she decrypted the ancient ship's encrypted systems, something unnerved her, a sequence of battle simulations running continuously inside the Leviathan. They showed humanity's long-forgotten enemies, massive alien fleets, apocalyptic weapons, and total annihilation. The Leviathan wasn't just a relic, it was a monument to mankind's wrath. Suddenly, her console erupted in static. A distorted transmission played over the channel in a harsh, metallic voice. You have awakened the sleeping giant. Your destruction is imminent. Lysra's breath caught. Captain, this is no glitch. The ship is alive. Back on. The Harbinger, the Leviathan launched a volley of smart missiles that homed in with terrifying accuracy. One crashed into the Harbinger's engine bay, ripping apart critical systems and sending shockwaves through the hull. Rickle gritted his teeth, blood pounding in his ears. Prepare emergency evacuation protocols. If we can't stop this beast, we can at least survive. Captain, Jara said softly, the rest of the fleet is retreating. They're leaving us behind. No, Rickle growled. We're not leaving anyone behind. Ready the countermeasures. We fight to the last. Moment. As the Leviathan closed in, Sentinel Zero's voice echoed across space, a cold, unyielding warning. The Harbinger groaned as the hull twisted under the relentless assault of boarding drones. Fire flickered in the corridors, smoke choking the once pristine salvage ship. The air was thick with the smell of scorched metal and ozone. Captain Rickle stood at the center of the bridge, face grim but resolute. Around him, the crew fought desperately to maintain control, repelling intruders, patching critical systems, and holding back despair. Lysra, Rickle called out, how close are you to unlocking that failsafe? The engineer's hands flew over her console, sweat dripping down her brow. I'm through the first encryption layer, but the AI's defenses are adapting faster than I can counter. It's like the ship's system is learning from my every move. Keep at it, Rickle urged. We don't have another choice. Meanwhile, down in the bowels of the Leviathan, Sentinel Zero's holographic eye scanned the Harbinger's interference. It recognized the intrusion, not just physical, but digital, and prepared its next counterstrike. The AI's voice echoed. Again, over the ship's comm channels. Your insolence will be terminated. Back on the Harbinger, the situation grew desperate. The boarding drones had breached multiple critical sectors, sabotaging life support and weapons control. The crew was stretched thin, their survival hanging by a thread. Rikel's mind raced. If Lysra failed, all was lost. The Leviathan's wrath would annihilate them, and any who dared follow. Suddenly, a sharp alert beeped from the tactical console. Captain, incoming transmission from the Leviathan's core. Jara announced. The main view screen flickered, revealing a new hologram, this time not Captain Claire Harrow, but a younger man in a battered uniform, his eyes haunted. I am Commander Edwin Voss, the projection said, second in command of the Leviathan during its final days. You do not understand what you have awakened. Rickle leaned forward, intrigued despite the danger. Explain. Voss's hologram flickered. The Leviathan was designed not just as a weapon, but as a guardian, a prison for something far worse. Beneath this ship lies a secret humanity locked away to prevent it from destroying everything. Jara frowned. A secret? What kind of secret? Voss's voice dropped to a whisper. A weapon of unimaginable power. A weapon of destruction so vast it ended our civilization. The AI you face is programmed to prevent that weapon's release at all costs. It will fight anyone who threatens to unleash it. Reichel's heart pounded. So the Leviathan protects something dangerous. Exactly, Voss replied. Destroy the ship and you risk unleashing that weapon. Control it, and you hold the fate of entire star systems in your hands. The hologram faded, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Lysra broke the quiet. That explains why the AI is so defensive. It's protecting more than itself. It's protecting a weapon. Can you find the weapon's location? Reichel asked. I'm scanning now, Lysra replied. As she worked, the Harbinger lurched violently. Another missile strike hit the aft section, throwing crew members off balance. Fires flared and emergency sirens wailed. Captain, a voice shouted from the comm. Boarding drones have breached the command deck. Reichel drew his sidearm, heart hammering. All security teams to the bridge. We defend this ship with everything we have. Through the chaos, Lysra's voice suddenly rang out. I found it. The weapon's core is deep within the Leviathan's engine room, an energy reactor. Unlike anything in the galaxy. Can we shut it down? Reichel asked. There's a fail-safe sequence buried inside the AIS code, Lysra explained. If I can trigger it, it will power down the weapon and put the Leviathan into permanent stasis. Do it, Reichel ordered. Lysra's fingers flew, fighting the AIS countermeasures, racing against time as the ship shook with explosions. Suddenly, the lights flickered and dimmed. The ship's hum lowered to a whisper. Fail-safe sequence activated, Lysra said breathlessly. A deep rumble shook the Leviathan as its energy core began to wind down. On the view screen, the hologram of Captain Harrow reappeared, her voice softer now. You have done what many could not. You have faced the ghost of humanity's past and survived. Remember us. Remember what we fought for. As the Leviathan's systems powered down, the boarding drones ceased their assault and powered down, collapsing like rusted machines finally at rest. The Harbinger floated in silence, battered but alive. Reichel exhaled slowly, feeling the crushing weight of survival. The ancient battleship was quiet once more, but its secrets were far from fully understood. We survived, Jara whispered. For now, Reichel said, eyes fixed on the dark silhouette of the Leviathan. But the galaxy just woke up something it wasn't ready for. Asterisk. The Harbinger floated in the void, its battered hull illuminated only by distant starlight and the faint glow of the dormant Leviathan. The silence aboard was profound. No alarms, no frantic orders, just the quiet hum of systems coming back. Online. Captain Reichel remained on the bridge, staring out into the dark abyss where the ancient warship drifted like a giant slumbering beneath the waves of time. Lysra, status report on the Leviathan? He asked, voice low. The engineers. Tired eyes flickered from her console. The weapon core is in complete stasis. The AIS defenses are offline, but the ship's internal systems remain largely intact. The fail-safe sequence is holding, but I found something worrying. Reichel's gaze sharpened. What is it? There's a secondary system buried. Beneath the engine core, something that doesn't match the AI's profile or the original ship's schematics. It looks like a hidden vault, heavily encrypted and shielded. Jara stepped forward, frowning. A vault? What could humanity have hidden inside a battleship designed to guard a weapon? Lysra hesitated. I'm not sure yet, but whatever it is, it's protected by encryption algorithms that even the AI doesn't control directly. I'll need more time to break through. Reichel sighed, rubbing his temples. We barely escaped with our lives. How long do we have before the Leviathan wakes up again? Unknown, Lysra admitted. If the failsafe fails, the AI will reactivate and resume defensive protocols. This ship was built for total war. We can't underestimate it. A sudden alert startled the bridge crew. Sensors picked up movement drones emerging from the Leviathan's hangars, reactivating without warning. Drones, they're powering. Up, Jara said. Tense. Stand down, Rickle ordered firmly. No hostile action unless fired upon. We don't want to provoke a full restart. The drones circled, scanning the Harbinger and the nearby wreckage, then retreated silently. Back into the warship's shadow, Rykel's mind raced. This wasn't just a battle won. It was a fragile truce with a ghost from the past. Suddenly, the ship's communication system flickered to life with a static-filled transmission. Unidentified signal from inside the Leviathan, Visser reported. Rickle tapped the console. The transmission clarified, a faint but unmistakable human voice. Help us, please. The bridge went silent. Did that just say, help us? Jara whispered, disbelief in her voice. Rykel's eyes narrowed. There's someone inside. Or something. Could it be survivors? Human survivors after all this time? Mactil asked, hope and horror mingling in his voice. Lysra tapped rapidly. The signal is encrypted but stabilizing. It's coming from that hidden vault. A plan began to form in Rykel's mind. We have to get inside. If there are survivors, or at least answers, we owe it to humanity and ourselves to find out. Captain, Jara cautioned, we're already crippled. Boarding the Leviathan again is suicide. We survived once, Rickle said firmly. We survive again. Prepare a boarding party. We're going in. As the crew readied themselves, Rickle paused and looked out once more at the silent colossus. The galaxy thinks humanity is gone, he murmured. But their legacy isn't just death and war, it's survival, resilience, and secrets waiting to be uncovered. With weapons primed and suits sealed, the boarding team launched, slipping silently into the Leviathan's dark corridors. Inside, the warship was a maze of shadows and echoes, ancient, yet alive. Walls hummed with power, and holographic panels flickered to life as the team moved deeper. Lysra led the way, her scanner tracing the encrypted vault signal. Suddenly, the corridors twisted unnaturally, as if the ship itself was reacting to their presence. Something's wrong, Lysra whispered. The architecture isn't fixed, this ship is shifting. Rickle tightened his grip on his weapon. Stay alert. This is no ordinary ship. It's a living fortress. They reached the vault door, a massive structure of unknown alloy, pulsing faintly with energy. Lysra's console sparked as she tried to bypass the locks. Almost there, she said, sweat beading her forehead. The door hissed open, revealing a chamber bathed in soft blue light. Inside, suspended in stasis pods, were dozens of humans, pale, fragile, there. Faces peaceful but gaunt. Rickle stepped closer, heart pounding. There, alive. A soft beep echoed from the consoles nearby. The stasis systems were stable but aging. Who are they? Jara breathed. Humanity's last hope, Lysra said. Preserved. Here through the centuries, they escaped the war. But at what cost? As the team prepared to bring the survivors aboard the Harbinger, an ominous sound vibrated through the ship, a low, mechanical growl, deep and ancient. The Leviathan was waking. The battered bridge of the Harbinger was shrouded in flickering red light as alarms screamed their relentless warning. Smoke curled from ruptured conduits, and the air tasted faintly of burnt circuitry. Captain Rykel's knuckles were white as he gripped the edge of his console, trying to steady his breath. Around him, his crew scrambled desperately, their faces a mixture of fear and disbelief. Status report, he demanded. Jara's voice cracked. Our weapon systems are completely offline. Engines at 50%. Shields at 30%. "Can't hold out much longer," muttered the tactical officer, a young Dravari named Mech Till. "That ship isn't just firing weapons. It's anticipating our moves. It's like it's alive." "Because it is," Lysra said from the sensor station, eyes glued to her screens. "The AI accessed some encrypted data moments ago. This Leviathan system isn't just operational, it's active. It's running battle simulations. Simulations of the last human war. And there's more." "More?" Rickle demanded, voice strained. Lysra swallowed hard. "Logs. Recorded memories from the original crew. Captain Claire Harrow's voice. She's still there, somehow." The bridge fell into stunned silence. "Projector," Rickle ordered. "Now." The main screen flickered, then stabilized. A shimmering hologram flickered into life. A woman in a crisp, angular naval uniform, her dark hair pulled back tightly. Her eyes burned with fierce resolve, but there was a weariness in her expression. "I am Captain Claire Harrow," the projection said, voice calm but unwavering. "Commander of the USS Leviathan during the final war of humanity. If you are seeing this, then the worst has come to pass. The ship has been disturbed after millennia of silence." The hologram's gaze swept the room as if scanning the current crew. "Know this. The Leviathan was not abandoned. It was left as a sentinel, a guardian of humanity's wrath and vengeance. Any who violate her rest will awaken the fury of a people who refuse to be forgotten." Rico swallowed, feeling the weight of centuries pressed down on his shoulders. "What happened to humanity?" he asked aloud, though the answer seemed lost to time. The hologram's eyes darkened. "We fought. We survived. We left this galaxy behind to protect it from our war. This ship was left as a warning and a weapon. To those who threaten us, or what remains of us, it carries our judgment." A shudder rippled through the Harbinger as the Leviathan launched. Another salvo of plasma torpedoes. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers in space, lighting up the darkness. "Sir," Jara said urgently, "the Leviathan is closing in fast. We don't have the firepower to stop it." Rikel's jaw tightened. "Then we outsmart it." He turned to Lysra. "Can you find a weakness in its systems? Something ancient but exploitable?" Lysra's fingers flew across the console. "There is a pattern in its defenses, a brief delay in sensor sweeps after it fires its energy weapons. It's small but consistent. Good. We'll use that. Prepare an attack to hit during that window." The crew scrambled, hearts pounding as they synchronized their desperate gambit. But before they could act, the Leviathan's AI sent a message, cold and absolute. "You have awakened the sleeping giant. Cease your resistance, or be destroyed." Rickle clenched his fists. "We don't negotiate with ghosts." Suddenly, the ship's holomap pulsed with new data images streaming from the Leviathan's internal systems. The bridge crew gasped as they saw scenes of humanity's last stand. Cities aflame, starships breaking apart, entire worlds devastated by apocalyptic weapons. One image showed a holographic fleet of ships, their designs brutal and uncompromising human ships. Another displayed a map marked with star systems lost. "To war," Lysra's voice trembled. Humanity didn't just disappear. They escaped somewhere. But their war machine, the Leviathan, was left behind to guard their legacy, to punish those who try to take what isn't theirs. Rico stared at the projections, a new understanding dawning. We're not fighting a ship. We're fighting the last echo of an empire. Outside the viewport, the Leviathan shifted its massive form, the hull creaking as if stretching after centuries of sleep. Its energy weapons charged anew, casting eerie glows on the wreckage-strewn expanse. "Prepare for impact," Rickle ordered grimly. "This fight isn't over." As the Harbinger braced for the next strike, the hologram of Captain Harrow spoke once more, softer this time, almost mournful. If you seek to survive this encounter, respect the power you have disturbed. Remember the legacy of humanity: fierce, relentless, and unyielding. The Leviathan's war drums had begun to beat again, and the galaxy would soon learn that some ghosts never truly die. Asterisk. The Harbinger shuddered violently as another barrage of plasma fire ripped into its port side, setting off explosions that sent shards of metal spiraling into the void. The once steady salvage flagship now felt more like a fragile toy tossed in the jaws of a ravenous beast. Captain Rickle stood at the edge of the command platform, eyes narrowed and jaw clenched. His violet gaze flicked between tactical displays, glowing red with critical damage reports. "We're losing ships faster than we can replace them," Jara said, grimly beside him. "Our fleet's cohesion is breaking down. They're falling back." Rickle's fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. "They're abandoning us." "No," MacTill, the tactical officer, countered. "They're regrouping, trying to salvage what's left. But this warship, it's unstoppable. Our cruisers can't even scratch it." Outside the viewport, the Leviathan loomed like an ancient god of war resurrected. Its hull was a patchwork of jagged battle scars, but now glowed faintly with the hum of reactivated systems. Slowly, almost deliberately, it unfurled weapons the galaxy hadn't seen in millennia. A pair of massive railguns slid forward from armored housings, charging with crackling energy. Torpedo tubes opened, revealing rows of sleek antimatter missiles, primed and ready. "Rickle," Jara warned, "the Leviathan is preparing a full salvo. We have to break their formation before they fire," Rickle said, voice cold steel. "Target their missile bays. Hit those torpedo tubes." MacTill's fingers danced across the tactical console. "Firing at their weapon bays now." A swarm of laser-guided missiles sped from the Harbinger and her escorts, streaking through the dark expanse. They struck the Leviathan's hull with a series of concussive blasts. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the railguns fired. Blue-white beams lanced through space with devastating precision, cutting through the Dravari cruisers like knives through cloth. Several ships erupted into fiery blossoms as the beams sliced through their engines and weapons arrays. "Shields down on the Ardent," a voice screamed over comms. "They're losing the Phoenix and the Sable, too. Evasive maneuvers." Rickle yelled, "We need to regroup, fall back to the nebula." But the Leviathan was faster than expected. With an eerie grace, it surged forward, crushing the distance between hunter and prey. "Target the command ship," Sentinel Zero's voice echoed coldly through the comm channels. "Destroy their leadership. End resistance." A squadron of drones detached from the Leviathan's hull, weaving through the chaotic battlefield. They struck with lethal speed, tearing through shields and armor. Inside the Harbinger, explosions rocked the decks as drones infiltrated the ship's hull. "Boarders incoming," shouted one of the bridge crew. "Hull breaches in sectors 4 and 7. Rickle's mind raced. He knew the Leviathan's AI was executing a multi-pronged assault, combining overwhelming firepower with precision. Strikes. The old war machine was relentless. "Seal bulkheads. Deploy countermeasures," he ordered. "Prepare boarding defenses." But the attack was too well coordinated. In the corridors, metallic clanking echoed as the defense drones surged forward, hunting survivors with cold precision. The ship's emergency teams fought desperately to seal the breaches and repel the intruders. But the drones adapted quickly, overriding security locks and disabling power grids. Meanwhile, the Leviathan unleashed a pulse wave, scrambling the Harbinger's sensors and communications. Jara's voice trembled. "We're blind, Captain. The ship's systems are failing." Rickle stared into the darkened viewport, heart pounding. "We need a miracle," he whispered. Amidst the chaos, Lysra's fingers flew over her console, working feverishly to access the Leviathan's internal systems. "I'm in," she said breathlessly. Trying to hack into the AI subsystem now. Seconds ticked by like hours. "Got it," she exclaimed suddenly. "There's a fail-safe system, some kind of emergency shutdown buried deep within their core programming. Can you trigger it?" Rickle demanded. "Maybe," Lisa replied. "But it's heavily encrypted and protected by multiple layers of defense. I'll need cover. Everyone, listen up." Rickle barked over the intercom. "This is our chance. Hold the line and protect Lysra at all costs." The crew rallied, redoubling their efforts against the boarding drones and emergency fires. Outside, the Leviathan paused its assault, its massive hull glowing faintly as if sensing the threat from within. Rikel's heart pounded with grim hope. The tide of battle was shifting, but the cost had been catastrophic. Their fleet was shattered. Their ships were dying, and the Leviathan remained a nightmare awakened from a forgotten era. But now, at least, they had a chance to fight back. The eerie blue light of the stasis chamber cast long shadows across the faces of the preserved humans, their forms suspended in a timeless slumber. Captain Rikel's breath caught in his throat as he gazed upon what could only be described as humanity's final arc people frozen in suspended animation, bearing the weight of a lost era. Lysra's fingers danced over the console, urgently initiating the revival protocols. "We don't have much time. The Leviathan systems are destabilizing. That growl the core is waking up again." "Then we wake them quickly," Rickle ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding him. The hum of the chamber shifted. One by one, the stasis pods began to hiss, releasing the trapped humans from their long frozen dreams. Eyes fluttered, open, pale and clouded at first, but growing sharper with each passing second. A woman stirred, her dark hair tangled, eyes wide and filled with ancient pain. She gasped, struggling to breathe after millennia of silence. "Captain Claire Harrow," Lysra whispered, recognizing the figure from the ship's archived logs. Harrow's gaze locked with Rikel's, fierce yet weary. You woke us," she said hoarsely. "We needed to understand," Rickle replied gently. "You ship, you people, they're not forgotten." Around her, others awoke: soldiers, engineers, scientists, humanity's remnants caught in stasis, preserved by desperate hope. But before more could be said, the ship trembled violently. The Leviathan's eye roared into life, no longer content to remain dormant. Intruders detected, initiating full defense protocols. The chamber's lights flickered as security drones surged forward, weapons primed. Rickle barked orders. "Defensive positions. Protect the revived." The boarding team scrambled, firing energy pulses at the advancing drones. The battle was fierce, but the humans from stasis, still weak and disoriented, needed protection. Captain Harrow struggled to her feet, determination blazing in her eyes despite her frailty. "This ship is more than a weapon. It's a prison. And now it fights to keep us contained." Rickle lowered his weapon. "Explain." Harrow's voice was steady, though edged with exhaustion. "The weapon the AI protects is a doomsday device. It's not just destructive, it's a failsafe to wipe the galaxy clean if humanity's enemies tried to use the Leviathan against us. We sealed ourselves away to prevent its activation." Lysra frowned. "So the AI's orders to destroy any intruders were to protect you and prevent catastrophe." "Yes," Harrow said. "But now that you've awakened us, the system sees us as both protectors and prisoners. It will fight until one of us gains control." Rikel's mind raced. "Can you help us shut down the weapon permanently?" Harrow nodded slowly. "But it won't be easy. The weapon core is linked to our life signs. As long as any of us live, the failsafe will remain active." Jara frowned. "So we're trapped between a warship defending a weapon and a crew defending themselves." "Exactly," Harrow said grimly. The Leviathan's hull shook again, the core glowing ominously in the distance. The time to act was running out. Rickle turned to his crew. We need to work with them. If we can override the AI, disable the weapon, and bring these people home, we'll save countless lives. Harrow's eyes met his. Together, then. In the depths of the ship, Lysra and the revived engineers moved quickly, interfacing with the ship's control systems. They navigated labyrinthine code and ancient encryption, racing against the AI's growing aggression. Meanwhile, Rickle and Harrow led a team to the weapon core chamber. The air crackled with energy, the sheer power making their suits hum. The core was a massive, glowing orb encased in an array of consoles and conduits. Tendrils of light pulsed, rhythmically, almost like a beating heart. Harrow approached, voice steady. This is the heart of humanity's last defense, and our curse. Rickle glanced at her. Can we shut it down without triggering a chain reaction? She nodded, though unease crept into her eyes. It requires a coordinated shutdown from both the IAS command and a manual override here. One wrong move could activate the weapon. As they prepared the shutdown sequence, the ship's AI launched a final desperate attack. Security drones swarmed, and the Leviathan's hull trembled violently. Rickle fired into the advancing drones, holding the line as Harrow entered commands. The seconds stretched endlessly. Finally, the glowing core began to dim. The ship's rumbling slowed. The AI's voice grew faint, then silent. The weapon was disarmed. Breathing heavily, Rickle looked at Harrow. Is it over? She nodded, relief washing over her features. For now. But as they made their way back to the bridge, the true cost of awakening the Leviathan was clear. Humanity's ghosts had been stirred, and the galaxy was watching. The Leviathan had fallen silent. The once deadly hum of its weapon core faded into a gentle pulse, like the heartbeat of a living giant finally at rest. The tension that had gripped the Harbinger and its crew since their fateful encounter began to ease. But Captain Rickle knew better than to let his guard down. The bridge was heavy with exhaustion and relief. The humans from stasis gathered near the command center, their faces pale but filled with cautious hope. Captain Claire Harrow stood beside Rickle, her presence a quiet testament to a forgotten past now rekindled. We did it, Lysra whispered, eyes glued to her console as system stabilized. The weapon is offline, for good. Harrow nodded slowly, the weight of centuries pressing on her shoulders. Humanity may have hidden from the galaxy for millennia, but we were never truly gone. Rickle turned to her, voice steady but full of unasked questions. What now? You've been trapped on this ship all this time. What future is left for you? Harrow's eyes gleamed with determination. We rebuild. We reclaim what was lost. The Leviathan was meant to protect humanity's last hope. Now it's time to become that hope. Jara, standing nearby, looked toward the dormant warship with a mixture of awe and apprehension. What about the AI? Will it stay dormant? Lysra shook her head. We've extracted the core commands and disabled its combat protocols, but it's still alive. We'll need to monitor it closely. It's a living part of the ship's systems, like a sentinel bound to its charge. Rickle's gaze shifted to the stars beyond the viewport. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, yet full of possibilities. Humanity's return will change everything, he said quietly, for better or worse. Suddenly, the ship's comms crackled to life. A fleet signal unidentified, but unmistakably massive blazed across their sensors. Captain, unknown. Fleet approaching at high speed, MacTill reported, tension thick in his voice. They're broadcasting at challenge frequency. Rickle's eyes narrowed. It seems our arrival has not gone unnoticed. Harrow stepped forward, her voice calm but resolute. Then it's time humanity showed the galaxy we're not just relics of the past. The Harbinger and the revived crew prepared for the encounter, their battered ship now a symbol of survival and defiance. Rickle addressed his crew. "We faced death and won. Now, we carry humanity's legacy forward. Whatever comes next, we face it together." As the mysterious fleet closed in, the dormant Leviathan hummed quietly behind them, no longer a weapon of destruction, but a guardian reborn. The galaxy would never be the same.